Hello, everyone, and welcome to another podcast episode. Now, before we get into this, I know everybody that's following me on social media would have seen the huge challenges and obstacles that I'm facing with getting into schools to speak to students. And I'm continually trying to problem solve this. I'm thinking in my head, is it because they're worried about potential backlash from parents? Is it because of the social media content that I post? Is it because they're worried that my story will make their students sad or trigger them in some way? Like, I don't know the answers, but I'm trying to find out. I'm trying to investigate better ways that I can connect with these schools. And that's why I brought on Richard into this podcast, who is having success in this with getting into primary schools and secondary schools with his subjects. We're going to learn a lot from him today. Now, as always, if you'd like to support my work and everything that I'm doing, go to jeremyindica.com. You can donate directly there, or we have merchandise available and a membership program on somethingtosayofficial.com. Thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy this podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another podcast episode. We're doing so well with these episodes, week on week, building this audience and the great conversations that we're having. We're trying to break down all the taboos and find out the best ways that we can get this subject onto everybody's table, the adults, but also the young people and the children, the teenagers, so all ages. And that's why today I brought on Richard onto the podcast, who's doing some phenomenal work in schools and also to parents and staff. And I'm really interested to understand how he's doing that, what it is that he's doing, and why he thinks it's so important. So, hello, Richard. Good morning.
Good morning, Jeremy. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you so much. And thank you
Good,
so
good,
much for
good.
giving us some of your time. So, I came across your profile on LinkedIn and I saw what you were posting, and I was like, this guy's getting into primary schools, which is really, really must be you must be very proud of being able to achieve that. And also then I saw you're speaking to parents and teachers, and we just want to hear more about what it is you're doing, please.
Absolutely, yeah. So, yeah, first of all, thanks for inviting me and reaching out. Absolutely positive, really positive to do that. Yeah, so my name's Richard and I run a community interest company. We're based in the Southwest, and we are essentially it's a company that is run by myself and my wife, and we essentially work with children in schools, all geared around educating and protecting young people on various things. Primarily, our work is done within working directly with children in schools. I would say about 70% of that work is based in primary schools, and then 30% is in secondary schools. You think it probably the other way around, but for the topics that we talk about, we're really looking at prevention, getting in as young as possible. And we help young people to stay safe. Obviously, that's the name of our company. And we're looking at really sort of important topics regarding we do lots of work in regards to bullying. We do lots of work in regards to keeping children safe online, helping them understand potential danger, keeping them safe from exploitation, and yeah, lots more.
Okay, so that's so great. So you've got a wide variety of topics. Something is touching your table that your computer's on, Richard.
Or is it
So
moving? That's
yeah,
my
it's
hand.
moving.
I'm gonna let go. Sorry.
And so no problem. So a wide variety of topics, and I am just wondering how you actually started all of this.
Yeah, so it's been a long process, and what I do now has really been a really organic sort of evolution of just, it sounds like a bit of a cliche, but finding your passion and
Yeah.
following my passion. So I started working with young people about 15, 16 years ago, a completely different field. I was a martial arts instructor, and I used to teach, I run classes for both adults and children. And working with children was just so rewarding, seeing them grow, seeing them grow in confidence, and obviously at the same time in that realm, really giving them some great advice and direction in regards to staying safe, essentially, dealing with peer pressure, dealing with confrontation and things like that. And this is going back years ago now. That then took me onto a journey of working with some of our local primary schools at the time, because one thing I found when running my sessions with kids is that lots of parents were bringing their children to my martial arts class because they were having troubles at school
Right.
certainly in regards with bullying and things
Mm.
like that. And as lots of parents think, in that realm, get them into something like this, they'll become sort of bully proof, and it will be the magic thing for them. And for lots of children, it could potentially work like that. But what I found is lots of parents are bringing their kids to my sessions because they were having issues at school, and they wasn't really the children that were going to thrive in that environment in the martial arts world. They were very introverted, very shy. And then I'd be having conversations with their parents a few months later saying that, they're doing really well, but they don't really want to be here. The parents want them to be here. And this happened numerous times. So I started at the time, my children were very young. They was at primary school level. So I started to talk to some of the local sort of primary school teachers and say, look, I'm having this issue with kids coming in. Would you be
Mm.
happy for me to come in and run a few sessions with
Mm.
your kids, completely free? And at that point, it was just to sort of help the local community. Went in there, sessions went really well. The schools really loved it. Can you come back next year? Then we
Amazing.
started to get other schools saying, "Oh, we've heard you've come and talked to our kids about this, and that. Can you come to us?" And then it was like, "Oh, well, hold on a minute. This could be an actual thing." And then from that, obviously, I'm going back like 15 years, and then
Okay.
I set up Stay Safe about 13 years ago.
Okay.
I started to develop some real sort of, structured programs, looking at bullying, looking at personal safety. And then obviously, as that's gone through over the last few years, where the online world has really exploded,
Mm.
lots of my work now focuses on the same issues, but connected to the online world.
Okay.
So looking at keeping them safe online. And
Mm.
that's how it's just progressed over the
Y-
last 13 years, really.
Yeah, okay, amazing. Now, how are you even drawing up your sessions? How did you even start to think, well, how am I going to structure a session? If you'd like to pick an age, I don't know, was it primary school that you started
I
with?
started with primary school. Yeah.
Okay, so how did you even think about structuring your session when it comes to that age? Now, for anybody that's listening that's not in England, primary school is ages,
Did I start about 4 or 5?
okay, and they go to
11.
right, okay. So how do you even begin to think about communicating with those ages on these serious topics?
Yeah. So what I generally do is, first of all, I look at the issue. So let's pick an issue. Let's pick an issue, certainly a relevant issue at the moment, and this will sort of resonate with your audience.
Yeah,
Let's pick an issue of children being exploited and groomed online.
yeah,
That's something I talk a lot about in schools.
amazing.
So let's just look at that. Obviously, it's a very, very serious topic, and at a very, very young age, it's really difficult to approach these topics. So what I generally do is, first of all, I look at what's happening, what are children facing, what are the risks, and what do they need to understand. Now, when we work in primary schools, our work really focuses on essentially 3 areas. So the school system in the UK is generally built into key stages. So key stage one would be when they start in primary school, as in when we went to school, it was infants and juniors.
Right.
So key stage one, there'd be year one, year two, very, very young at that point. And then as they move on into key stage two, that's split into 4 year groups. So year three, year four, year five, year six. So when I work with children in schools, we generally break them sessions up into 3 age groups. So key stage one, very, very young age. And then year three and four, which we approach the same subject, but a little bit more in a serious way. And then year five and six, again, same subject, but again, up in that level of having some really serious
Mm,
conversations, getting them to think critically about what they're doing.
okay.
So everything that I do in schools is all about conversation.
Mm,
It's not going into schools telling children what to do.
right.
That doesn't work.
Yeah.
It's about talking to them about what they do, and helping them try to think critically about how they interact, who they do it with. And then from them, we can start to really break down the barriers of recognizing where potential danger may lie. So from a really young age, as in year 1 or 2, they are so young. We will just talk about other people online, talk about who they connect with. Do they play games with people they don't know? Where could there be some potential risks involved with that? And then as that age group goes up, we sort of increase the conversation and start to delve into some more serious topics with them.
Okay, so is this like it's almost like workshop style. So
Absolutely.
it's not presentation from you, it's not talk from you.
Not really, no. So basically what I do with kids, because kids, they need that engagement. And I work like this myself. So I struggled in school massively when I was young. I'm dyslexic. I didn't really do well with words. I'm a very visual person.
Right.
So when I structure my sessions, I always have visuals, like a PowerPoint presentation, and I'm really big on visuals. So you've probably been there before when you've been through presentations with just loads of text, bullet points coming up, and everyone's like falling asleep.
Yeah.
So what I try to do is when I form a session, I work on visuals first to capture my audience. So depending on what the topic is, I will work out some really good visuals that will be in line with that topic to keep them engaged. So I've got big visuals on the screen. And then as we go through, then I talk about it. But it's not just me talking to them. It's completely interactive.
Okay.
It's asking them, throwing out topics, throwing out conversations, seeing what they think. And then from there, we can then sometimes go off and really sort of tailor what we give them in regards to what comes up in that session.
Okay.
So start with visuals to capture them.
Yeah.
And then we throw out ideas and then we talk about it as we go through.
Right. And can you remind me the youngest ages that you do this with?
So year 4 and 5.
And that age, how old are they?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So age 4 and 5.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
4, 5, and 6 would be sort of key stage 1.
Right. So key stage 1, 4, 5, and 6. And then key stage 2. Between those two, what's key stage 2 ages?
Key stage 2 is so from 6 to 11. So
Okay.
that'll be year 3, year 4, year 5, year 6.
Brilliant. Right. So between 4 and 6 and 6 and 11, they are two completely different. Oh, I don't know what that is.
Wow, that looks awesome.
For those that are listening, something just weird just happened on Zoom. So they are two completely different age groups, right?
Absolutely.
Completely different in nature. Do you see a difference in how they interact? Sorry, what I mean is like, are the 4, 5, 6-year-olds, are they forthcoming with wanting to chat? They
Absolutely.
are. Wow. And do you present yourself differently with those age groups? Because, when I'm interacting with young people in my family, let's say, with the 4, 5-year-olds, I'm being silly and I'm like being a bit of a character. But with the 11-year-old, I'm, of course, completely different. Now, are you adjusting yourself to these ages?
Yeah, you have to slightly. I mean, for me, I have the advantage when I go into schools that I'm not a familiar face.
Yes.
I'm not their teacher. And also, I'm not an authority figure. So one thing I quite often hear with schools when they talk about, or they address these subjects internally, is that children are they're a little bit cautious about what they share.
Right.
Usually because they're doing things online, just look at the online world that they know they're a little bit too young to be doing. And they are always a little bit sort of less likely to come forward because, oh no, this may get me told off or in trouble. And that prevents these conversations from happening. When I go into schools, first of all, I'm Richard. I'm not Mr. This or Mr. That. I'm Richard, and I am a new face, and everything's really relaxed and open. I start all of my sessions, regardless of the age group, and this is my sort of introduction, who I am, what we're here for. The first thing I say, and I say this from the earliest children all the way through to children that are about to leave secondary school, is I'm not here to tell you what to do.
Amazing.
My job today is to create a safe space for us to talk about what you do. Let's talk about what you do. Let's find out what you like to do. Let's explore what we all do online. Let's explore how we can have a positive and fun time. And from them conversations, My job today is to try and help you.
Right.
So we're not going to be talking about you shouldn't do this, you're too young to do this, you're not allowed to do that. That doesn't work. So I will start off all my sessions in a really sort of like relax. We'll do some icebreaker things like, right, what's your favorite thing to do online? What's your favorite game to play?
Okay.
What apps are you using? Obviously, that particular world children love.
Right.
So as soon as I approach it, it's like, oh, what we get to talk about playing Fortnite or
Mm,
using Snapchat. Yeah, let's talk about it. What do you do? How do you like? How many friends you got? How many followers you got? This
mm,
type of thing.
mm,
And then that immediately changes the room. It's like,
mm.
right, we can say what we want here.
Brilliant.
And yeah, going back to the original thing, obviously when you're working with the young ones, you do have to be extremely high energy.
Mm,
You do have to keep that engagement. It has to be quite fast paced. And then as they get a little bit older, you still need to be quite engaging. You need to be that fun person in the room.
yeah.
But obviously, as they get a little bit older, you can sort of tone it down a little bit and just
Mm,
really sort of open the room up for conversation.
okay. So the focus, sorry, the majority is this online conversation that you're having, the
Yeah.
dangers of being online. And what are you looking for these secondary school teenagers? Yeah. So secondary school is from 12 to 16. So when you're speaking with them, they're coming in the room. They've been told that this is about online safety. They are probably rolling their eyes that they've got to
Yeah,
sit through this.
absolutely.
We know it all. We've been told it a million times. Why do we have to do this again? What is it that you're looking for them to leave that room thinking or feeling like?
Yeah, so this goes with all age groups, but yeah, it certainly increases with as they get older. So what we're trying to look at is we're trying to help them think critically about what they do online. And the reason why I say that is we've got to the point now where, and this starts off as soon as they start school, and this increases obviously as they go through. We've got to the stage now where most children in schools, they've had lots of talks, they've had
Mm,
lots of lessons, they've had lots of PSHE sessions on these subjects. And we've got to the point now where they know all the right things to say. They can talk the talk,
mm,
but they don't necessarily walk the walk. So, for example, a teacher could be running a lesson and they may say, who would it be safe to interact with online? Every child in that room is going to say friends and family,
mm.
people that you know, people that you trust. That teacher can then say, well, why is that important? Oh, because if you don't know someone, they may be a bad person. They may be looking at tricking you or, whatever. What should we don't share personal information with people that you don't know. And they mantra all these things that they've heard many, many times. And because of that, it can sort of lure us into a bit of a false sense of security. Oh, they know all this stuff. But the reality is they don't put it into practice.
Mm,
So when I work with children in schools, and again, this is sort of really heightened as they get older, is like, look, guys, we're covering online safety, but this is far more than just online safety. I'm not here to hear all the same things that you say all the time. Don't do this, don't do that. Again, this session is about empowering you to go off and make your own decisions, not me telling you how to behave online. And soon as you mention that, it's like, oh, okay, so that's a really good starting point. And then my job with these children and young people is to look at a topic and then get them to think about what could happen in their life. So that could be sharing an indecent image of themselves as part of in a trusted consensual relationship, and not me saying that that's a really silly thing to do because that's you shouldn't do it, there's legal implications and everything else. That doesn't work.
mm,
My job is to get them to think about what, again, going back to that critical thinking, what are the potential outcomes here?
mm.
What could potentially go wrong? You may be happy to, but let's think outside the box a little bit. Think about future consequences. Think about the impact of coming into school tomorrow and that image has been leaked and everyone's seen it. Really getting them to almost empower them to take control of their own decisions, because they can't just, they can say all the right things, because they've heard them many times. What I try to do is get children to think about, forget about saying all the right things. How could this impact you?
Mm.
And get them to sort of put themselves in their own shoes. And in fact, actually, yeah, I wouldn't really want that to happen.
Mm.
And empower them to not listen to what to do, but empower them to actually take control of what they do. And that's really that's the angle that I'm trying to get at.
And I love that because no, like we're talking about the older kids here, the teenagers. No teenager ever liked being talked down to,
No,
being told what to do. I mean, it's just not in their nature to receive that well. But like you say, if you can make them think, this is actually relevant for me, and this actually, like, in my position, if that happened, that would be something that I did, and then they can make their decisions in that space. Because a comment that I
absolutely.
made recently was, when these children and teenagers are online, it's like, well, there's no adults around. It's just them in that world. And I said something the other day, which I'm not too sure if I'm far off this, but when you talk about 5-year-olds, 7-year-olds on YouTube, which is something that happens now in our culture, right? They're watching
Hmm.
their tablet, etc. You've got an autoplay of videos going on. You've got
Yep,
suggested videos on the right-hand side. You've got pop-up adverts. All of those are being controlled by algorithms and corporate companies, and who else knows what else is going on there, what they're seeing, and no one is watching it with them. So they're completely on their own. It's almost like, before tablets and before the internet, it's almost like dropping your kid at the park, going home, having a cup of tea, and coming and picking them up an hour later and being like, you were right.
absolutely.
It's almost like that. And I think when you frame it like that, it's like, okay, but maybe we need to really take this seriously. They're in the online space on their own with no parental guidance at all. It's the software, it's the social media, it's the YouTube, it's the Fortnite that's running what they're seeing. So I also understand that you speak to parents.
Yeah. So that parents is it is one of the missing pieces of the puzzle in this world.
Mm,
Now, what I mean by that is all schools across the country are addressing this subject. However they do it, whether they
yeah,
get someone like myself in or they do it internally, children are getting these messages. The problem here is that you can have, like, I can work with a group of kids. I can give them the best messages and direction that I feel is possible. They can leave that room displaying that they've understood. They can even go away thinking, no, I'm going to put some of this in place. They are children. Now, the problem is when that child gets home and they've got unlimited access, it's completely unrestricted. They've got devices in their bedroom, sometimes overnight, and the parents are thinking, well, they're at home, they're safe, but they're not involved in that world at all. They are not going to go off and make these healthy decisions. We
right.
definitely need parents involved in this subject. It is the missing piece of the puzzle. They need to be having these conversations with kids at home. They need to understand what children do. They need to be able to have open and honest conversations about what they do. Be curious, explore this with them, sit down with them. Who do they watch on YouTube? Who do they follow on social media? Show them how they use these apps and platforms. Be involved. Obviously, the earlier the better this happens, the easier it is. Try
Right.
to be involved in it. I've got teenage children.
Mm,
Try to suddenly be involved in a 15-year-old girl's life.
yeah.
They don't want to know. It's almost
Mm,
like, what's this? Is interrogation. If this can happen at a primary school age, where you're going on this journey with them, you're having these everyday conversations about what they do, who they do it with, have they ever seen something online that's worried them or upset them? Normalizing these things, essentially, normalizing mistakes, getting that conversation going is so, so important, because lots of parents, when I work with them, they know about risks out there, but they're completely unaware of how their children use the online world.
right.
They're not aware of let's use group chats, for example. Apps like WhatsApp,
Yeah.
they are used across all age groups in school. I'll work with a group of 5-year-olds that are in group chats at school.
Wow.
I know it's crazy. Snapchat, all of these things are just getting younger and younger and younger. Now, when I talk to parents about group chats, they think children are using these to chat to their friends,
Mm.
and send silly emojis. That's what they do.
Mm.
Yes, they do that, but they're not also aware that content's being shared on these group chats. Downloaded images are being shared from inappropriate websites. And that could be anything from sexualized pornography, fill in the blanks. It could be videos that have been downloaded from TikTok and shared in group chats. So even children that are not on these platforms, that are not daily being exposed to this content, it only takes one person at school to infiltrate the group chat, and now you've got content, and unfortunately, that content could be extremely damaging. Anything from a beheading video to a link to a pornography website to inappropriate content being downloaded from social media platforms.
Yes.
And parents are like, oh, what, that's happening? Like, yeah, that's happening. And you as parents need to be aware of this so you can talk to your children about it.
Amazing. Do you get many schools organizing parents to come in, or is it difficult for them to do that?
It is difficult. It's parental engagement. No, looking at schools, whatever the subject, getting parents in to help their children read. Whatever it is, parent engagement is always difficult from schools. From what I hear from them. But so generally, what happens when I work with a school, I'll go in, I'll work with spend a day working with their kids, and then quite often schools will say, we want parents to be involved with this. Brilliant, and then they will usually, when I work with parents, it's usually through a couple of different angles. I'll stay after school and parents will come in, and again, I'll do a presentation, look at the same subject that we've been talking with the kids, but from a completely different angle, giving them advice of how children use the online world, how they can talk to their children about it, what settings and controls that may limit some of these risks from taking place. And so we do that in schools. I'm going to be honest with you, the turnout is generally fairly low.
I hear about this, yeah.
You get the audience that, and this does, without sounding disrespectful, you get the audience that you don't generally need.
Yeah.
You get the proactive parents that they're doing all the right things and they're just going to check they haven't missed out on anything.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. But the ones that you really want, as in the ones that are allowing their children to do things that are not really invested in, it can be like potentially a babysitting service for them, the online world. They don't come, which is hard. They're the audience I want to reach. So to help that, what we've started to do with schools is we do them in this format. So we do them on Zoom, or Teams or whatever it is. So essentially what I'll do is I'll send an invite letter out to a school. They will have a link to join me. I put on that letter why we're running the session, what we're covering the session, but I put in big bold letters at the bottom. Please join us. You don't need to talk. You don't need to have your cameras turned on. You don't need to ask questions if you don't want to. This is about you sitting in the comfort of your own home. We usually run them in the evening. So when everyone gets home from school, fed the kids, that type of thing. This isn't about me telling you how to be a parent. And again, lots of parents, this is a barrier. They think, oh, I don't want someone to tell me how to parent my kids. I'm a parent of 3 children and I know it's hard. And I have made lots of mistakes. And you learn by them, don't you? So I say to parents that this is about me giving you advice. I want to inform you about what your children do online. I want you to go away having this information so you can go off and make your own informed decisions yourself. And again, it's exactly the same as we just said earlier, working with kids. My job is to make them think about what they do, give them outcomes, explore outcomes, exactly the same with parents. So then they can go off and think, okay, well, now I know about these risks. What am I comfortable with my children doing? And if I am comfortable with them doing certain things, playing certain games, using certain apps, I feel a little bit more empowered to have conversations with them about them.
Right.
And that's what we do. And from that format, we generally get a lot more parents come. So that could be anything from, I may work with a primary school, I may have like 50 households on screen, which is amazing.
Wow.
And not always, it quite often depends how that school has promoted it.
Yes.
It really does come down to promotion a lot of the times.
Yeah.
Just a little snippet in the bottom of a newsletter.
Yes.
It may not get read, but for the schools that have like gone out there,
Mm,
met parents in the playground, said, "Look, we're running this next week. Please come. You're not going to be lectured. You're not going to be told what to do. We just want you to be here to hear this valuable
yeah.
advice,"
Yeah.
and that really helps.
Yeah. Amazing. It's so cool. So can we start talking about the children again? We'll bring it back to the kids, and I'd love to know about some of your experiences through doing this for 13 years, which is incredible. Um, can you think of any standout moments that are so significant with any kind of age group, or some common things that you're seeing in these days?
So just looking at standout moments, it's something I quite often have, and this happens almost weekly. And it's a little bit of a double-edged sword. You want to hear this, but at the same time, you don't want to hear this. So quite often, what I will find again, as I said earlier, I have the luxury of going into a school, being the new face. We create a safe space. No one's getting told off. No one's getting told what to do. We just want to explore. And through them conversations, obviously, we talk about really serious things. We talk about things that children are doing right now. So I quite often see it could be when we look at who they connect with. All children know don't talk to strangers,
Hmm.
but they do it all the time.
Huh.
They do it all the time because they don't see people online as strangers.
Hmm.
They see the creepy guy at the park that mum said stay away from as a stranger.
Right.
People online, they're just their online friends.
Hmm.
So we talk about these subjects with kids. So we'll talk about who they connect with. How many friends they got on Roblox, or how many followers they got on Instagram, whatever it is. And then we unpack it, and we start to help them think about, actually, these people, you see them as your friends, you game with them regularly, and let's face it, if you're playing a game with a group of people that you've never met before, you're playing the game, it's fun, it's positive, and it's like, good game, see you later, no harm done. But obviously, as we know, Jeremy, there are people on these platforms that have an unhealthy interest in children.
Right.
Anywhere where children spend time, you're going to have people trying to exploit them.
Right.
So we talk about that. And we talk about, actually, it's easy to say don't talk to strangers, but when you see people as they're your friends, it's a little bit harder. So we break these down. We talk about certain things to look out for. We talk about warning signs. We talk about helping them think critically about, actually, I have never met these people, and there could be a little bit of risk. And this conversation goes off, and we have some really, really serious conversations, but again, in a safe way.
Hmm.
And quite often, what I will find is after these sessions, I will have children come up to me afterwards that something that we've mentioned has it's planted a seed, or it's a light bulb moment essentially, and they've come up to me and they'll say things like, I have been talking to someone online, and sometimes they say things that do make me a little bit uncomfortable. Uh, what should I do? I'm a little bit worried now that is this the right person? Which, for me, it's a horrible thing to hear, because already I think this is, this child could be potentially in danger.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, wow, this person's come forward. And when I say, well, how long's this been going on for? And it may be a few months.
Wow.
And then I think, wow, if I wasn't here today, could that be another 3 months? And
Wow.
what's happened in the last few months, and what could potentially happen in the next few months? So that type of thing happens a lot. It's very unusual for me to work with a group of children, and where I don't have at least one. Sometimes there's more. Sometimes there's like a little queue, kids of, this has happened to me, or what do you reckon I should do about this?
Mm.
And it's, again, for me, it's really positive that actually I've broken down these barriers and make them feel comfortable, even though they've all heard millions of times, tell a teacher, tell a trusted adult, speak to mum and dad. I've been the one where they've thought, actually, this is probably a good time to come forward.
Amazing.
and that's powerful.
Yeah.
And it could be anything. Talking to someone they don't know, they've shared something with someone, and now they're a little bit worried about it. Someone sent them to something, and they've got content on their phone that they
Mm,
shouldn't really have.
mm, mm.
And it just gives them that opportunity to talk to me, and then I can say, actually, no, this is. Let's give you a bit of support in this area.
Right. So when you're talking to an 11-year-old who plays Fortnite, right?
Yeah.
Or whatever age it be, a young person who's playing Fortnite, and they're on the live setting, which means you're playing with lots of other people from around the world, and
Yeah.
you've got your headset on, and you've got your chat box up, and you're playing the game, right? But you're just playing with other people. That's how they're seeing it.
Yeah.
And the game is set up to have that feature. That's actually like a phenomenal gaming feature. Like you're playing live with people across the world. Like,
Absolutely.
it's come a long way since the days of Mega Drive and those kind of things back in the day. You remember?
Absolutely. Unfortunately, I'm old enough to remember.
Yeah. So I'm just wondering how you get through to a 12-year-old playing Fortnite live, because you can't play the game without that live feature. So then they're not going to turn it off. That's just, the game wouldn't work like that. So
Absolutely.
how are you, what is it they're meant to do in those situations? Like, what's your advice to them? Because as you explain that, that's going to help all the parents that are listening to understand that a bit more.
So yeah, so obviously, as you just said, Jeremy, that the online world has been set up in a way that it's normalized, it's encouraged, it's fun to do these things with other people. And again, saying, switch it off, don't play live, play on your own. Kids just don't want to do that.
They're
So
not
they
going
are
to do
doing
that.
it.
Yeah.
They're doing it at 5
Mm,
already.
mm,
So straight away it was like, this is how we do this, this is what we do. So saying don't do it doesn't work. So what I do when I work with kids on that subject is we talk about warning signs. So generally with an 11-year-old, for example, we will talk about 4 warning signs. So first of all, we talk about how they play, how they chat, how they do it. And we also talk about, actually, is it fun? Yes, it is. It's fun to play with people that you don't know. It's fun to know that you're competing against people all over the world. I mean,
yeah.
that's the hook, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's fun, and I get that.
Yeah.
So we also talk about communication. Now, if the communication is about the game, you're helping each other on the game, you're sharing ideas on the game, all the conversation is about the game, again, it's fun.
Right.
So from that point, though, we then start to help them think critically about where could this potentially lead. Now, there is a fine line. Most people online are there the same reason why they are there.
Yeah.
Let's just look at, there are other kids playing the same games, all there to have fun. But as I said earlier, we also know that there are people that are on these platforms looking to exploit children. So what I try to do is we look at 4 warning signs. So when I talk about it in school, and I've got slides to pop up for this, is I explain the warning sign, and then I get them to think about it, discuss it, and then come back to me why it's a warning sign. So I'll go through these 4 warning signs with you now. Is that okay?
Yes, please. I'd like that.
So you're on a game, whatever's come up in in that session, we'll use because it seems like a popular game. You're on a game, you're playing a game, you're chatting about the game. It's all about the game. Are you safe? Yes. Brilliant. Okay. All of a sudden, though, could be through the chat, could be through your headset, depending on how it's been set up. Someone that you've been chatting with on the game starts to ask other questions. They're showing a little bit more of an interest about you. This is moving away from the game. There's nothing weird going on, by the way. It's just they're just striking up other conversations. What other games do you play? What other platforms do you use? What do you like doing? What's your hobbies, interests? That type of thing.
Mm.
Now, the reason why I do that is, again, when you talk to children about communication, they all know don't share personal information.
Yeah.
So that will make children think, well, if someone, they would know straight away if they're playing a game. Someone says, "What's your name? What school do you go to? Where do you live?" Oh, whoa, 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 hold on a minute.
Yeah.
And going over these things, it's like, well, no one said any of them things, so I'm completely I'm completely safe. People that are looking to exploit children, they don't need to know their name, they don't need to know where they live, they don't need to know what school they go to. But what they do need is a conversation.
Yes.
They need to strike up that conversation. So I say, forget about asking questions that you've all heard many years of times. This is just normal questions. So, what other games do you play? What you into? Fill in the blank. And then I'll say, why is that a warning sign? And then they'll go away, they'll have a little chat amongst themselves, and then they'll come back and say, oh yeah, usually with kids that age, it's usually about two things. They're trying to scam you or they're trying to hack you.
Right.
That's generally the things that they say. And they want to steal your money, they want to do this. It's like, yeah, that does happen, but obviously I'm there to talk about something a little bit more serious than that.
Right.
I'm not there just to protect their Robux or their V-Bucks from getting taken away from them. I'm there to also protect them. So I say, okay, well, let's forget about that from the side. You are correct, but let's just move hacking and scamming out the way for a little bit. Why else may this conversation be taking place? And again, this is where the developing their critical thinking skills. So then the conversation will quite often, well, yeah, they may be trying to strike up a conversation with you so they can gain your trust. They can then maybe ask some of them other questions a little bit later on, try to build up a friendship and a relationship with you. And these are the things that I want to hear from them. It's like, well, yeah, actually, if I was looking, and I always put my sort of self in that situation and say, if I was looking at tricking you, I need to get you on my side. I need you to chat to me. I need to talk. I need to find out things about you so I can go, I'm into that too. Do you know what I mean? To get that connection. So we talk about where that could potentially lead. So at the end of that conversation, it's essentially, look, if the conversation is about the game, everything's about the game and you're connecting on the game and you're talking about the game, it's all good. But if that conversation starts to move away from the thing that you've been using and playing, this could be someone trying to lay foundations to maybe get to know you a little bit more later on, to help them to think about, actually, no, this conversation is moving in a different direction. And then we talk about obviously the potential outcomes of that.
Right.
So that's warning sign number one. Warning sign number two, again, you're playing a game with someone and someone offers to gift you. Now, is that a term you've heard before?
I'd like you to go through it, please.
So gifting is essentially a term where people will essentially buy something for someone in a game. So it could be they're playing Fortnite, I'll buy you a new skin, which is a name for the outfit that they're wearing on that they're wearing on the game, their character. And quite often children will gift each other. They will certainly within their friends, they'll gift. They'll give them some Robux, or they'll buy them a skin, or they'll trade. These are normal things that kids do. So we talk about that online. We say, what happens if you're playing a game with someone, you're chatting. It's someone that you may play quite regularly, but it's also someone that you don't actually know. You've never met in your real life, and they offer to gift you. Let's face it. And I always say, who wants something for free? Everyone. This is, again, everyone's got their hands up. Who wants some Robux? Who wants this new skin? Who wants this thing on, some FIFA coins or some V-Bucks? So obviously everyone puts their hands up, and I say, well, this is essentially someone being nice. They're gifting you something. Why is that a warning sign? And again, they go away, they have a little bit of chat, and then they come back. And again, the conversation usually starts, they're trying to trick you. They want to steal your stuff. They want you to give you their login details so they can take all of your stuff. It's like, yeah, okay, that could potentially happen, but let's think a little bit deeper. Why would someone offer you something? They don't know you. They don't see you in real life. What could they want in return? And then they start to think, oh yeah, they may want me to do something for them.
Mm.
And again, that's quite often what happens online is someone will give someone something to someone, and now they want something in return.
Mm.
And that's where that pressure could potentially lie. It's like, well, no, I've given you my stuff. Now I want you to do something for me.
Right.
Or I've sent them to you, but for me to send them to you, you've shared some of your personal details with me. I got your information now. Now, if you don't do what I want, and again, this suddenly the situation could turn a lot darker.
Wow.
If you don't do what I want, this is what's going to happen. And then you get this sort of like emotional blackmailing, and then they may be talked into sharing something. And I may say, they may be asking something that you don't want to give.
Mm.
That could be an image of yourself. That could be, jumping on a video call and doing something. That could be saying something to them. This may be something that you don't want to share, but because you've taken something from them, that applies a lot of pressure.
Mm.
But obviously, if we haven't accepted anything from someone, they haven't got that hold over me. So again, depending on the age, the conversation will go off into a more of a serious
Yeah.
situation. So warning sign number 3, again, it happens all the time, is you've been playing with someone online, you've been talking through the chat, it's a public chat, everyone's there. That could be talking through the comment section on your social media page. It could be talking to someone on a public chat on a game. And all of a sudden, this person suggests to chat in private.
Mm.
So look, we're playing this game all the time. Let's connect on Snapchat. Let's connect on WhatsApp. We've been talking all the time on here. Let's talk later because, I'm not going to be on this game all the time. Why is that a warning sign? And again, children will be like, they want to steal your personal information. They want to find where you live. They want to kidnap you. These sort of things. And it's like, yeah, again, these things you are correct, but why do they want to, they've been talking to you in public. You're happy to talk to them in public. Why do they now want to talk to you in private? And again, when you sort of break down and get rid of the sort of the hacking, the scamming, or they're just going to come around and kidnap you, it's like we get to the conversations. Well, actually, there's certain things they can't say in public.
Right.
The chat may be moderated. Other people are there. Using your analogy of going to the park, I use all the time with kids. If you go to a park and it's a busy park, there's lots of families there, children there, everyone's there, you're generally safe.
Mm.
You go back to that park at midnight tonight when there's no one there and you're on your own,
Yeah.
the dynamics completely change.
Yeah.
And it's exactly the same chatting online. You're chatting in public where there's everyone there. There's certain things that people that are looking to exploit children can't say, obviously at the risk of getting caught. But if I can coerce that child into saying, well, look, or, talk that child into saying, look, let's connect on Snapchat. Let's connect on WhatsApp. Now I've got free reign. Now I can say whatever I want. It's not moderated. It's end-to-end encryption. No one can see this conversation. It's completely locked down and private. And again, what we try to do with children is actually, if you do suggest a chat, if you do agree to connect in private, you have essentially let that person into your life.
Right.
They can contact you whenever they want. They can send you whatever they want. They can video call you whenever they want. And again, if you have at that point shared, discussed, now they will have that hold over you. So again, that's the third warning sign is if anyone tries to move the conversation from a public realm into a private realm, even if you've been safe and happy in public, this could be moving something into a more of a dangerous situation. And the last warning sign is one they've heard literally since they started school, and that is someone suggesting to meet up in the real world, which they get that concept straight away. It may be someone that's pretend to be a child, but is actually an adult, that type of thing.
Yeah.
But so they're the things that we help children to understand. Saying don't talk to strangers doesn't work.
Yeah.
Saying don't do this, it doesn't work. They do it. They like doing it. I mean, I've even had children say to me, and sometimes really young, how else are you meant to make friends if you don't meet them on Roblox or Fortnite? And it's like, that's what we're up against. And as you said, it can be fun. And saying don't do it means it's not going to be fun.
Mm.
So it's all about empowering children to think about, okay, this is what you do. How can you be empowered enough and think a little bit more critically about what you do to allow you to go there for the reasons why you're there, and
Yeah.
that's essentially have fun
Yeah.
and block out all the risk and danger.
I agree. I agree completely. That's a great approach. Can we talk a little bit about the dangers of the younger years? So the 5-year-old who's on YouTube for an hour or whatever it be. Now they are not going to have these complications that we've just talked about because they're not on the messaging service. Possibly they're not on
They
the.
are.
They are okay. Okay.
Some of
So
them, obviously, some of
yeah,
them, but
yeah.
yes.
So they're not. My assumption would have been they're not communicating via written format so much as the other as
Yeah, okay,
the
fair
11
enough.
year
Yeah, yeah,
olds, for
yeah.
example, playing Fortnite on live. So now I'm thinking, I think it'd be really interesting for us to understand, well, what's the problem with the 4-year old or the 6-year old watching YouTube or playing games on their tablet in the evening?
Obviously, if they're unsupervised, there's big problems because obviously the content that they may find and see may not be appropriate for them.
Okay.
So that's obviously a massive concern there. Something that we always suggest to parents is certainly for any really year group, within primary school, is that really encourage your children to access the online world where you guys are around in public parts of the house.
Okay.
Because if they are in a private area, bedrooms, bathrooms for obvious reasons, we can't guarantee what they are being exposed to, what they're watching. They're sitting on, as you mentioned earlier, they're sitting on YouTube. It's set up, autoplay.
Yeah.
What they're watching now is appropriate, but 2, 3, 4 videos time, it may not be. So obviously is a parenting sort of
Yeah.
issue. It's all about forming boundaries and acceptable use and trying to get them to encourage their children to be online when they are around. We can't supervise every second of the day. It's impossible.
Yeah.
So, but if they can, if they could do that, that helps. But also we talk to children about, and again, this is a massive stumbling block, is that, and this has to happen from a really young age. We also talk to children about the possibility of something going wrong. They do see something that's worried them,
Okay.
that's upset them, that's scared them, and all of this content is online. They may see something. It's even just having the news on in today's world with all the conflict that's happening. There's topics, there's subjects, that do concern children.
Mm.
So what I do when I work with kids is we talk about this happening, talk about the likelihood of it happening, because it
Okay.
does happen. It doesn't mean that you've done something wrong, but it could happen. Now, the reason why I say it doesn't mean that you've done something wrong is that's something I hear more than anything in schools. If I tell mum that I've seen something that was inappropriate, that's worried me, upset me, confused me, I may get told off.
Wow.
Victim blaming is not a term that children know,
Yeah.
but it's definitely a concept they understand.
Fascinating.
And the problem is, if a child feels like they've done something wrong, first of all, they're not going to do the thing they tell him to say in school all the time, tell a trusted adult.
Yeah.
And the reason why they're not going to do that is for two things. One, they may feel they're going to get told off. But more importantly, one of the biggest concerns I hear across all age groups is if I go to mum and dad, parents and carers for help, they'll take my phone away. They'll take
Oh,
that device away.
wow.
And that, Jeremy, is, I think, and it's when I work with parents, it's always the last thing I share with them. I say, look, I've given you lots of advice today, looking at settings, looking at controls to make this environment a little bit safer. We've talked about loads of things that you can do in regards to having conversations, to really approach this subject with your kids and open and honest and be curious. All of these great things that we want parents to be invested in. But I've left this to the end because it's probably the most powerful one. And that is talk to your children about mistakes.
Mm.
I talk about this with every age group, even if they're, 4 or 5 or they're teenagers, talk about mistakes, talk about the possibility of something going wrong. Talk about they may be on a game. They may accidentally talk to someone that they don't know and something's gone wrong. Someone said something that's made them feel uncomfortable, a little bit scared. Talk about the likelihood of that happening.
Mm.
Talk about the likelihood of someone sharing something in a group chat that has made you feel shocked or worried, or that wasn't meant for me. They
Yeah.
know it's not meant for them. Talk about the likelihood of you know, you've accidentally used banter online and you've now sort of hurt someone's feelings and you're getting accused of being a bully. Talk about the concept of someone being unkind to you. Talk about all of these possibilities and make sure your children know that if they do any of these things or they are impacted by any of them, you're not here to take their stuff away. You're
Yeah.
not here to tell them off. We can look at what's happened, and we can then think, okay, well, like, what do we do to make sure this doesn't happen again?
Yeah.
But the problem is, most children are concerned that then these things are going to happen.
Mm.
And it's so hard to break that barrier down. If a child has done something online, they've been groomed, they've been exploited, they've been talked into sharing an image of themselves. All of these things are extremely serious. When I talk to children that have been in these situations, and I say, what happened, what led up to it, what did you do? 9 times out of 10, children will say to me, I knew I could have spoke to mum and dad. I knew there was help in the room with me, but I didn't tell anyone because I thought I was going to be told off, judged or blamed. And more importantly, I didn't want to lose that aspect of my life.
Wow.
And it's so concerning. And that means, and this is why some of these children will come up to me after my session saying, I'm not really sure what to do about this. This has been happening, but they haven't told anyone because they don't want to lose Fortnite, or they don't
Yeah.
want to have the group chat taken away.
I can
And
just imagine at that age, that is it's like I've never thought of that before. Like
it's
I understand the
massive.
concept of like, going to mum, going to dad, saying you shared something that you shouldn't have and worrying about getting in trouble. I get that
Embarrassing.
concept.
And yeah,
Yeah, or embarrassing, yeah.
yeah,
But just the fact that their biggest concern is that device
it is.
or that game.
It's their biggest concern is losing that. And they, to put this into context, I worked at a school recently, and I was working with a year 5 group, so
Mm,
9 or 10
yeah.
year age, and this particular class, they had a class group chat, all the kids on a group, fairly standard, most
Okay.
schools. And one evening, uh, someone on the group chat was sent by someone outside of school, like a friend, outside, was sent a horrible thing to talk about, but it happened, a beheading video
Okay.
that this person had found online. Shared it into the group chat where 30, and sorry, shared it to this person, and then this person instantly reshared it into the group chat.
Mm,
So you've got about 39 or 10-year-olds that have seen this video.
wow.
You would like to think that one of them children would have said something to someone, wouldn't
Mm,
you? Like,
mm,
this is a horrific video. No one's done anything wrong. No one asked for it. No one said, send it to me,
yeah.
but everyone's seen it. No one said anything to anyone. It
Wow.
was only discovered because one of the children in this class group chat was obviously, I mean, everyone was traumatized, but one
Yeah.
was so heavily traumatized, refused to go to school, couldn't sleep. The parents are like, what's happened here?
Mm,
What has suddenly happened? Didn't know about it. 2 or 3 days later, that child eventually disclosed to his parents, what he'd seen. Obviously, at that point, the parents notified the school. All the other households of these children were notified at that
right.
point.
Okay.
It was news to everyone. No one knew.
Wow.
So then you've got essentially, and I share this story when I work with parents. You've essentially then got 30 households, 30 parents and carers all having the same conversation with their kids from a place of love.
Mm,
We feel awful
mm,
that you've seen this video.
mm,
We didn't know about it. This happened a few days ago. Why didn't you tell us? We could have helped you, supported you. Kids at this point breaking down, crying, upset. Why didn't you tell us? We could have been here for you. Every
mm,
single child, and I've heard this multiple times since then, every single child said the same two things to their parents. The first thing they said, I thought I'd be told off.
mm.
I thought I'd be in trouble. And the second thing they all said, I thought you'd take the group chat away.
Huh.
I thought you'd take my phone away. And where's that barrier? How do we break that barrier down?
Mm,
If that a child knows they've done nothing wrong, they didn't ask for anything, they didn't reshare it, they've just been exposed to something that they didn't want to see. So, where's the judge or blame there?
yeah, yeah,
They're still concerned about losing that thing.
yeah, yeah.
Now, this doesn't happen when things generally go wrong on their normal day at school. They come
Right.
home, they've had a bad day, someone's been unkind to them, someone said something, pushed them over in the playground. Most parents will find out pretty quickly because they've got nothing to lose there. They just want to get a bit of help.
Yeah, yeah.
And but as soon as that, and the parents can be there to support them. But unfortunately, these issues that happen online, that the connection of losing that
Mm,
thing,
mm.
it prevents them. And that could be that they've been seriously bullied, they've been seriously groomed. These things have gone on and on and on, and they desperately want help,
But they can't come forward.
but they don't want to lose. They don't want to take the risk of lose because it is such a massive part of their life.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
It's like
Okay,
cutting off
that's
their arm,
yeah, yeah.
you know.
Maybe some of them would rather lose their arm than lose their mobile phone.
I've asked kids before that, would you rather break your arm or lose your phone? Honestly, I have. And they said break my arm.
I'm not
Crazy.
surprised at that at all.
So when I talk to kids about these things, we always end up our sessions, wherever the age group, whether it's a 5-year-old or a 16-year-old, we always end our session on mistakes. I normalize mistakes. I say, look, I've made tons in my life. I'm a lot
Yeah,
older than you.
yeah,
And quite often that's how we learn. We've
yeah.
all heard, learn by your mistakes. So I normalize them, I talk about them, and I make sure that they know it's still going to be quite hard to break that barrier down. That's why
Mm,
we need parents to say they need to mirror this to their kids. We want, I say, look, if it does happen, there are people out there for you.
mm,
You're not going to get judged. You're not
mm.
going to get blamed. It may turn out that it was a silly mistake, but that's great because we can make sure we don't make that silly mistake tomorrow.
Yeah,
And I also say to parents, have this conversation regularly. I do with my kids,
yeah,
and they're older now, but I've got teenage and two of my kids are adults. But I still say to them, you find yourself in a situation where you've made a mistake, you've done something silly, peer pressure got to you, whatever it is, let me know.
yeah, yeah,
I'm not going to judge you because I've probably made some of them mistakes
yeah,
myself.
yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
I'm not going to judge you, but I want to help you. And let's look at that. And that's why you do what you do.
yeah, yeah. Brilliant. That's going to be extremely valuable because I think that's going to be something that a lot of people haven't thought of before. Just to close off here, I'd love to know what your vision for this is and your vision for the future. Where do you want to take this? You want to continue staying in schools, do as many schools as possible, etc.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, this has been a real passion project
Yeah,
for me. I got into this. I didn't intend to get into this. I had a completely different job, completely different
yeah,
career,
yeah,
everything else. But for me, when I started back 16 years ago working with kids in the martial arts realm, and then that moved on to spending majority of my days working with kids in schools, that is what I'm passionate about.
yeah,
You know, yes, it's a job and I make a living from it,
yeah.
but it's far more than that. It sounds
Mm-mm.
very cliched,
I get that.
but it is if you can find something that you are passionate about. So, and I have found that thing. So my vision for this is to carry on doing what I'm doing.
Yeah,
My work has always evolved as time's gone on, because the world changes, and quite often the lots of the work that I do I've started to do it because the schools that I work with, they may come to me and say, you've been working with our kids on this. We're starting to see these other issues. Would you be happy to develop a program, or because we like the way that you engage with them, they listen to you, and so lots of my work has come from that. It could be looking at cyberbullying, to then looking at everything connected to the online world. Now I'm getting schools asking me to talk to their older lads about toxic masculinity and the issues that young men face. And again, it's like, I haven't thought I want to do this. It's schools saying we're noticing people in schools talk about people like Andrew Tate, and we're seeing a little bit of a culture shift here. Would you be happy to come in and work with us? So I'll develop something, I'll go into a school. I always at that point do it for free.
Okay.
So let's work with you. We'll work with you, and then we'll develop something, and then that was really great. I can then start offering it to other schools. So what I want to do is just continue doing what I'm doing. Continue it on, keep evolving, listening to my community, as in the schools generally. Most of my work's in schools. I do some youth groups and things like that, but the majority is schools. Listening to them, see what they need, listening to young people, see what they need, and then think, okay, let's see if I can help you.
Yeah, amazing.
And that's what I want to continue doing.
And good luck to you.
Thank you,
Richard. Really good luck to you with it all. I think you're doing a phenomenal job. I see your posts on LinkedIn. For anyone that's listening that wants to contact you for any reason, maybe even to bring you into their school, how can they do that?
So if they just Google the Stay Safe Initiative, that's the name of our company. We're on all the normal platforms, Twitter or X, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. Obviously, they can find our website, which is www.thestaysafeinitiative.org.uk. That will take them to everywhere they need to go. Contact me. Absolutely. It's been fantastic talking to you, Jeremy.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. Thank you. And it's valuable information for me, myself personally, and my audience. So for everybody that is listening to this or watching along on YouTube, thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you again for another podcast. Thank you. Okay, so I wonder what you thought of that conversation. Personally, as it was evolving, I thought, I am learning so much from this. I can't wait to re-listen to it. It's so great to see somebody who's having success in schools, primary schools, secondary schools, booked every week, 3-4 schools a week. And this is everything that I'm aiming for. I'm not going to stop with this, because as I continually evolve and improve the quality of my work, I believe that I can crack this code and get schools to take me seriously. So as always, if you'd like to support the work that I do, jeremyindica.com, somethingtosayofficial.com are both the websites. Go check them out. And I want to say a big thank you to you for joining me on this podcast. See you on the next one.